Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of your Student Access 101 podcast with your host, Dr. Tameka Ellington. For those of you that don't know me, I am a researcher, educator, and lover of all things educational access, all things educational growth and success. And Student Access is a podcast where we discuss critical conversations in the pursuit of equitable education for students that are underrepresented. And today we have an amazing episode for you. Today is actually the last episode. I am sad, but I'm also very excited to say that this is the last episode of Student Access 101. Last year, this time, I gave myself a challenge to begin a podcast and to stick with that podcast for an entire year and learn as much as I could about what it meant to be a podcast host and connecting with people who I could interview. And this year was very awesome. It was done very well. And I had some amazing guests I'm sure you probably all remember when I did the interview for Vice President Iris Harvey of the Ohio Planned Parenthood. I interviewed Nanakwa David Whitaker, who is a Ghanaian chief. We interviewed him all the way from Ghana, which was awesome. Even another person internationally, Ramon Leonato, who is an international meditation specialist at the International Foundation for Spiritual Unfoldment. We actually did, and he actually comes from Spain, and we did an entire meditation session on this podcast. It talked about the importance of meditation for students. And all of the work that I've done to this point has been largely focused on students. As you all know, many of you know that I was serving as a professor for many years. I taught students at the School of Fashion at Kent State University for about 15 years, and then served as assistant dean for about 2 years for the College of the Arts at Kent State University. So everything up until this point that I've done with my career, for the most part, has been all about the advancement of students. And I'm still very, very passionate about the advancement of students, and therefore ending Student Access 101 with the student was only the right thing and the best thing to do. This young lady that I have on today, she reached out to me on Instagram when she saw some of my posts regarding first generation students. We set up a meeting to talk and realized that we definitely had a connection between us and the work that we both have been doing in relationship to first generation students. And in this short time, I've been honored to know this young lady and to see the incredible leader that she is becoming for her university's first generation student body. And so our next guest is a college student and the founder of the First Generation Survival Guide. Student Access 101, I give to you Blanca Rangel. Is that how you pronounce your last name, Blanca?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. And like you mentioned, we had a lot in relation to the first gen
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to read your bio so that everybody can know about the wonderful work that you've been doing and some goals that you have as a student. So what year are you in school?
Third year.
Okay, third year. Okay, Blanca is the creator of the First Generation or First Gen Survival Guide. It's an Instagram page. She is a first generation college student at Fullerton College. Go Hornets is what she said. She created a space where first gen students like herself can connect and collaborate with each other. As a first gen student, she recalls needing support in various components. And the biggest one in particular was about community, needing support with community. She needed to be around others who understood and could relate to her experiences. And she needed to also be seen and heard. And therefore, she founded her own community and began growing it to build strong networks that will last more than beyond college experiences. And so after graduation, Blanca plans to work in the mental health space and become a licensed psychiatrist. So welcome again, Blanca, and I'm excited for you. And on this road to becoming a psychologist, I think that the work that you're doing right now is definitely going to be a major contributor to that.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me. And yes,
yeah,
the mental health space.
you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so we're going to get right on into these questions. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So did you grow up in California, or just a little bit about you, about how you grew up, and kind of what got you on the trajectory of wanting to be the first person in your family to go to school?
Yes, so I did grow up in California, specifically Southern California. I grew up in the LA County area, so downtown LA, the heart of LA. I come from a family of five. I am actually the middle child. I have two older brothers and two younger siblings.
Okay.
And I am the first female of my family. I have a younger sister, but I again came from the LA area, which again the education system is a bit um, different in regards to other counties in the California area. When I was in school, I noticed that I had a passion for and drive to help others. I noticed that there were a lot of barriers in regards to financial income or other accessible resources to my disposal that weren't as accessible to me to achieve my full potential in education. So I kind of doubted my coming into education into the university level completely. So in school, I really utilized being on campus since a young age, staying after school programs, being part of clubs, extracurriculars, things that kept me motivated because I saw that the only way to get out of my threshold in regards to the low income community was school. And I
Yeah.
found the passion of helping others through my education, which I found the passion of mental health in regards to looking at my own community from where I lived. I saw there were a lot of mental disabilities that were affecting a lot of folk, and there weren't a lot of accessible or perfect practitioners who were supporting us in regards to people of color, low income
Yeah.
folk. So I really took advantage of school and understanding that and learning that system.
Yeah, wow. And so you had mentioned the school system that you grew up in. Would you say that you grew up in impoverished schools?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And oftentimes you'll find first gen students have the experience of growing up in impoverished neighborhoods. Oftentimes they are people of color. Oftentimes these students suffer from this imposter syndrome. That's what you were
Mhm.
talking about, that you experienced, not feeling as though you were able to, or had the skills enough to be able to go to school. So that little bit of imposter syndrome is not something that is just, I'm sure you know this, is not something that just
Mhm.
you've experienced. Many first gen students, as well as myself, I've experienced imposter syndrome well into my adult career. So imposter syndrome is something that will carry through into your career if you don't get a handle on it.
Exactly, and that's something that I discovered in school. Currently now, I've really understood and have been able to sort of, like you mentioned, navigate it and then,
Hmm.
obviously overcome it, knowing that I am worthy of being in this space. And,
Yeah,
it wasn't just out of luck. I put in a lot of work and
yeah,
dedication to my schooling, the efforts that I put into a lot of the projects that I create. I mean, I questioned myself, like you mentioned, imposter syndrome affects a lot of first generation students because we don't know again, we don't have sort of the support that we need in regards to the understanding of what this era of education, what this field is, because
yeah,
um it's a big challenge. I even going into it as becoming a first gen student, or in the process of being the first student to even graduate high school. While I entered college, I noticed that it was a big mental obstacle because again, I've
mhm,
always been able to adequately participate with my academics, understand where to navigate my academics, but a lot of it was just a mental strain, a mental obstacle that my family didn't understand as well. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of trying, a lot of communication, and a lot of segueing with your family as well, because they don't
yeah,
understand that pressure
yeah,
of education.
yeah, yeah. You know, students, and this is my story. I often talk about this, but me as a first gen student, I had a really difficult time getting my family to understand why I even wanted to go to school, why school was even important for me to do. And it's still, in many ways, it's an unfortunate thing. I'm still the only person in my family to go to school and to graduate. So it sounds like you have brothers that are, on the road to either graduating or have already graduated, so that you at least have someone in your family that you can, talk about this experience with now.
Yes, so with my older siblings, they did not finish high school, so they didn't graduate. But my younger ones are in the process, so I'm kind of
Mhm.
just supporting them with the
Yeah.
process as I'm also going through it.
And that's another challenge too, because
Hmm.
when you are the first and you're the only one that's really kind of gone through it, people look to you for answers. And sometimes, you don't always have all the answers, but I'm sure,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm sure they appreciate you, that, any advice that you can give, I'm sure they appreciate it.
Oh yes, exactly. Yeah. Again, we don't have a lot of the resources, and being the first is scary, but I think actually helping others along the way, you learn a lot from teaching others or giving what information you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what was it that motivated you to go to college? You mentioned, wanting to get out of poverty, which is a major motivator. But
Hmm.
was there something else about yourself that you saw differently than other people around you? And what I mean by that, I thought about myself and what it was like for me. Education, for sure, was the way out of poverty for me, but I also just knew that I wanted a different type of a life, so what was it for you that made you like have this motivation to want to go to school?
The thing that I saw, like you mentioned, was actually, getting out of poverty, but also the hunger that I had for knowledge. As
Mm,
I continued to go to school, especially, my first few weeks at community college, because I'm a transfer student, I
mhm.
just uncovered a lot even after high school. I thought I was learning a lot in high school, but once I hit college, there was an opportunity for me to choose, actually have that option to choose my courses, and learn a bit about myself, and that started turning the wheel for me to
Yeah,
discover what my interests were, and actually put that into the forefront of actually walking into those spaces like the mental health space. I originally was thinking about the law enforcement field because
oh, okay.
I was interested in potentially becoming a probation officer's the transition of helping inmates and whatnot. But after taking different courses and then having internships, involving myself in the different fields and the settings, I knew that I wanted it to go into the mental health space, and
Yeah,
I saw myself being a provider and providing people who didn't have the capable means of processing certain situations, because
yeah,
I started developing my skills and learning who I was, and noticing that I had a lot of patience, and I really wanted to uncover a lot of things that were hidden, which comes with a lot of mental health disabilities, because not a lot of
mhm.
people take the time, or I would say effort as well, into uncovering the individual and finding out what they may need and actually assisting them with their needs.
Would you say that seeking mental health assistance is something that your culture struggles with? Because I know in the Black culture, um, going to a therapist is not always the most popular thing. Black
Mhm.
people oftentimes talk about the fact that we just need Jesus, or, that we, can figure it out on our own. One of the things that I hear oftentimes is people will say, well, our ancestors struggled through more than what I'm struggling through, so I should be able to get through this, right? And so the fact that Black people still have such a hard time with seeking mental health assistance. Like, is that something that also you find in your culture too?
Exactly, tying in culture. So I come from a Hispanic household.
Yeah.
And my mother is Salvadoran and my father is Guatemalan, so Central American.
Okay.
And in the Hispanic household, specifically in my own household too, mental health, we don't really talk about that. I mean, I knew about mental health, but a lot of it's associated to being crazy, the
Yeah.
taboo,
Yep.
the idea of someone being crazy and locked up in like the loony town or the
Yeah.
loony
Yeah.
bin. That's what our definition of mental health
Yeah.
or, being psychotic is. We didn't,
Right.
after I was in class, taking a general psych class, a psychology course, I noticed that there's a lot more than just, being crazy, that there's actual diagnosis, people are living with it. I actually, and this comes back to the purpose of why I created my page. There was a short time during my academic career where I experienced depression and I didn't know what was going on with me. Again, like you
Yeah.
mentioned,
Yeah.
from your experience in the Black community, and then this is also from my personal experience in my Hispanic household or the Hispanic culture, we are told that our ancestors have dealt with a lot more, that
Hmm.
there's a lot more hardship that they've gone through,
Yep.
a lot of labor work, but we shouldn't be crying about it. We shouldn't be wimps about it.
Hmm.
We should become anything. And that's during that time when I was suffering in my point of my depression, I was trying to overcome it, be like, I was trying to talk myself out of it. Like, why am I crying? Why am I getting frustrated about this? It's not a big deal. I had to keep on moving and persevering and fighting over this. But realistically, my body was, giving up. My body was gi- forcing me to give a break, to give myself a mental break, to actually
Yeah.
pay attention and give attention to my mental health, and my mental well-being was being ignored for so long. I didn't even know how to process it or how to
Wow.
give it attention. So that was just a big
Wow.
unfolding. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. It's interesting how the mental health space is it's still very controversial after all of this time, all the research that's gone into it. It's still a very controversial thing. I also suffer from depression. I suffer from anxiety. I take medication on a daily basis to help stabilize myself. And that's a conversation that I've never had with my mom. I just don't talk to her about it because, again, that whole "you're not crazy" conversation, would come up, right? So it's a very difficult conversation, and to have a woman of color such as yourself getting into the mental health space and really giving some normalcy, to that space is very, very important. So the work that you're going to do in the future will be so needed.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I see it in my younger siblings sometimes. That's why I actually, segue into the conversation when, I kind of put myself in the position of being there for their support in regards to
Yeah.
what they're going through with their educational journey. And even if they're just beginning, or even helping them, identify what they want to do in the future, not giving them that pressure and
Yeah.
just making them feel comfortable with this decision. Because again, I think I want to emphasize, as being a first gen, I think we have this pressure that our families want us to just go to college, like it's only college. And again, identifying that at a young age, 18 out of high school, it's like, what am I going to do? Like, I had to have my life planned out already.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's a
yeah,
difficult move.
yeah, it is. So what exactly is the first gen survival guide?
Yeah. So the first gen survival guide is basically an online community. It is a support network group. So it came out of, again, a period of my time where I felt alone. So I wanted to reciprocate an area where, or cultivate an area where others could feel welcomed and just share their experience, share their journeys, their emotions towards school, their understandings, their personal experience of how they personally experience and just walk through college, how they're currently walking through college, and what they got to after college, how they navigated the professional space, just understanding a Christian student of any background. And again, I didn't want to target a certain population like the Latino community or the Black community. I wanted to leave it exclusively open to
Yeah,
all first
yeah,
gen students because,
yeah.
again, anyone's a first gen student if you're entering this space that you've
Mhm.
never been familiar with and none
Right.
of your family members have been.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is one of your big audacious goals for this community? What are, like, if in a perfect world, if this community can have a certain impact, what would you want that impact to be?
The impact and the mark I'd like to leave with this vision is just really pulling it together into like a physical area. I eventually wanted to leave marks at different universities, even and integrating it into school, like high school systems, really
Yeah,
reaching the community, my own community. I personally have talked to others and they have really helped encourage me to, create it into a nonprofit area for students
yeah,
and, actually having it as a space created by a first gen student and then actually implementing it into the school systems or university systems
yeah,
is where
yeah,
I'd like it to go.
yeah. One thing that you probably should think about too is who's going to take over after you graduate.
Hmm.
Start thinking about, who would you entrust, with that after you finish school. Or, I mean, because you still have quite a bit of school to go, as a
Yeah.
graduate student, you can still be in charge of it because you'll be in grad
Hmm.
school. And that's one thing I will notice, and that I actually, when I was serving as assistant dean for the College of the Arts at Kent State, I was the graduate dean. And so I worked with a lot of graduate students, and I realized that there is not a lot of support for graduate students who are first gen.
Mm,
So that's another little area that once you become a graduate student, that you'll be able to really focus on, is helping and getting support for students who are graduate students.
exactly.
Yeah,
Wow, it's just a lot. Another step after another step
yeah,
keeps
yeah.
on growing.
Uh-huh, absolutely. That's wonderful. Have you gotten connected with any of the TRIO programs on the Fullerton campus?
Actually, funny enough, I did communicate with one, but actually another, I don't know if I mentioned this with my previous interest in the criminal justice system. Funny enough, which is crazy because I did intern or I did volunteer with a nonprofit who that's called PEP. It's Prison Education Program,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
so they help incarcerated individuals, juveniles specifically, that are trying to re-enter college or get into the college system, just help them with classes and whatnot. During that time, I was participating, helping them out, but a program on our campus at Cal State Fullerton actually have a Project Rebound
Okay,
program. So focusing with incarcerated or previously incarcerated students, and one of their assistants actually contacted me. So they reached out to me.
very
They
nice.
Yeah, so they saw the page and they really wanted to collaborate and moving into the spring semester, really
Yeah,
start that work on our campus.
that's wonderful. Congratulations, Blanca.
Mhm. That
Yes,
was amazing.
that's awesome. Good job. What would you want first generation students to know? So if you could just leave one message with students who are first generation, what would you want them to know?
I would want first gen students to know that you aren't alone.
Mm,
You can definitely find others with who are going through the same thing you are going through. Don't be afraid. Take the step forward. You're stepping into a lot right now.
yeah.
You are going through a lot of changes in your life, and it's okay to express yourself. You don't have to keep on trying to hurdle a lot of things individually. It's okay to talk
Mm,
amongst
mm,
others, find that
mm.
community, find a space where you're welcomed. Make that space, create that space if you need to. Also, don't ever turn yourself down from different opportunities that are out there just because you may look different. You may not look like the ideal candidate. There are spaces for you, and if not, create them. Please do, because you're needed, and everyone has a voice that needs to be heard.
Absolutely. That's wonderful advice. Wonderful. I'm sure you've probably heard of Shirley Chisholm. And one of the things
Mhm.
that she said, she was the first Black woman to ever run for president. And one of the things that she would mention is, and I'm paraphrasing this, she would say something like, if they won't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair and make your own seat, right? Uh-oh. Did I lose her? Blanca, did I lose you? Uh-oh.
Okay, sorry, I'm here.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you hear the last thing? You probably didn't hear the last thing I said. I said Shirley Chisholm, that
Mhm.
when she ran for president, one of the things that she said was, if they won't give you a seat at the table, bring your folding chair and make your own seat.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, what would you like professionals who serve as first generation students to know? So, these are people that might be professors. These are people that might work in TRIO programs, like such as the
Mhm.
administrators or university presidents or deans or whoever. The people that work with first gen students, these professionals, what would you want them to know?
Personally, and from my experience,
Yeah.
I would say reach out to those students a little harder, especially individually if you have to. I would
Mhm,
say
mhm.
sending your cards out, speaking to them, having the time to sit with them and go into those areas, be more present into their scope,
Yeah.
because those students do need assistance and it's hard. I would say personally for myself as well, we are scared. Again, we are nervous.
Mhm,
We are
mhm.
just again walking with a lot on our shoulders. So we don't have
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
actually, step away and go into those meetings or groups. I would say just be more flexible and have that accessibility front face with another student and just being
Mhm.
in those areas and having the time to sit down, make it more intimate if you have to as well, sit down and grab coffee with them. I think that's another thing that really opened up that space for me when professors would have, take the extra step to set me aside and you are doing great in class. I'd like to talk with you.
Mhm.
Taking that time to actually get to know the students
Yeah.
and bring them along into your journey and let them know who you are. Because again, I think what brings a lot of people together, especially from my personal experience, is being vulnerable. When
Yeah.
others share their stories, like as you did, Dr. Tameka, it really opens and it creates that barrier. It creates that bond, that
Yeah.
unbreakable bond when you're sharing a lot, and
Yeah.
it just makes me feel at home and makes me have this. Gives me this area of comfort that I'm able to share because you, as a person in this higher ed position, you are sharing a lot and being very vulnerable, and
Mhm.
it gives me the freedom and the space to feel comfortable to do so as well.
Yeah, I think what you said is also very, very important for students that are students of color that are also at PWI schools, predominantly white institutions. So it's
Hmm.
really critical for those instructors to make themselves available, make themselves accessible to students, because oftentimes, like you said, students are scared, and especially students of color are don't feel comfortable going to their white professors, or their
Hmm.
white instructors, and talking about problems that they might be having. So, if any professionals are listening tonight, what Blanca was just mentioning about the importance of you stepping up and taking the initiative to make yourself accessible to students is a very, very important thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything that you would like to speak about that we didn't cover?
Um, Personally, I would say that another note for like first gen students and first gen professionals are
Yeah,
that, we very much share similar backgrounds in the sense that we are first gen
yeah,
students always, anytime and always, after crossing that finish line, from your first, even, your AA, you're a first gen student,
yeah,
going down the educational ladder. But, again, take that time to get to know one another and just grow from one another. It took me a lot to, step out and actually, find these resources and connect. And once I got a hold of that connection, I just wanted it to blossom and continue to
yeah,
reach others. And I wanted to reach other students and professionals to, create that mentorship between them, but also, have them again relate through those experiences and have them be heard and seen through those experiences because again we just have this tunnel vision and we just want to see
mhm.
a one-sided view, but there's a lot to uncover from another individual.
Yeah. I have a question for you. You said that you're a transfer student, you transferred to Fullerton. And so Did you transfer as a student in your junior year, or did you transfer as a sophomore?
I transferred as a junior.
Did you really? So
Yeah.
did you start the first gen survival guide when you got to Fullerton?
Yes.
Wow. So the work that you've done already in just this only been one semester then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're an amazing young lady. So the work that if you would love to learn more about what Blanca is doing, please go to her page. And I was going to ask you how people can get in touch with you.
Mm-hmm.
She has a page called the First Gen Survival Guide. It's on Instagram. She does amazing work. She interviews students about what it's like to be first gen and just provides some tips on like on a daily basis about things that you can use as ways to maneuver yourself, you know, through the college space. And just it's wonderful. And for you to have only done this out of just one semester, that's wonderful, Blanca. I just can't wait to see what this is going to evolve into as you have more time to make it happen.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very impressive, very, very impressive. So, anything else that you might like to mention or say, or any other way that you would like for people to get in touch with you besides on Instagram?
Yes, of course. So another way or another form of accessible contact that would be an email. So my email address is another way you could contact me, but
Okay.
primarily it is Instagram right now.
Yeah,
Again, the future products or ideas that I have in mind are going to be products such as, merchandise and a planner that I will be eventually creating for first gen students just to help them keep organized throughout their semesters.
that's wonderful. So it's at, let me see, I'm gonna see if I can put it uh on the screen so people can see survival guide, right? Uh First gen survival guide. Um so it's right, this one here, right? Is
Hmm.
this it? So this is her Instagram page. So if you all are interested in learning more about what Blanca is doing, go to Instagram at First Gen Survival Guide, and you'll see all of her amazing posts. You've even branded that thing, you know, so well. Only, I mean, in the first semester, I'm just very, very proud of the progress that you've been able to make in such a short amount of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I applaud you for being brave enough to reach out to me as well.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah, absolutely. There's others that I can connect you with as well that you may find some benefit in being connected to. So there's many other professionals that are in the first gen space that would love to talk to you, I'm sure. So you can,
Amazing. That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So you can reach out to me and I'll give you some of those names.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. It was wonderful getting to talk to you finally, to getting to meet
Mhm.
you, and I hope you keep up the amazing work that you're doing, and I'm sure your community really appreciates all the things that you're doing for the first gen students.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and bringing me on to share.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Have a wonderful night.
You as well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
So this is the time of the episode where I talk a little bit about the research that goes into putting these episodes together. As an educator and researcher, I truly believe that it's my duty to really give some background information about how these episodes come to be. I think it's really, really important that I give the audience a reference for some of the information that I look through in preparation for these, because the more knowledge that you have, the better you can be prepared for different life avenues. And so the particular article that I looked at for this episode comes from Syracuse University. They wrote a beautiful article in their campus and community newsletter called Setting Up First Generation College Students for Success. And the author discusses different types of challenges that first gen students face, such as guilt, guilt over leaving behind their home and their families. And I know for sure as a first gen student, I have suffered through guilt, feeling guilty about leaving my family. That's something that many first gen students deal with. First gen students also deal with anxiety over adjusting to the newfound academic and social and financial responsibilities. They talked about the fact that arriving prepared to succeed in their classes is something that's a challenge for many first generation students. Confusion about how to take advantage of available resources. One of the main things I think that makes first gen students very unique is the fact that they come from a situation where knowledge is limited for them. Many people that have had family members that have gone to university, gone to college, they can go home and they can ask their parents, well, how do I maneuver through this particular situation? Or what do I do? But, when I'm talking to my professors. But first gen students, they don't have anybody at home that they can talk to. They don't have anybody that they know that are close to them that's gone through the college experience. So really, in many ways, they're going at this blind. And so this confusion about resources that might be available, about knowledge on how to better prepare themselves to be ready for school is a big challenge for first gen students. And then they also talked about the fact that discovering community on campus is another critical point that first gen students suffer from. And so, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, that TRIO programs are programs that are government funded programs. They are there to assist students in finding their community. Programs such as Upward Bound, Student Success Services, McNair Scholars Program, those are all TRIO programs. And Blanca's program, the First Gen Survival Guide, her page not only provides community, but it also provides a way to help retain students for graduation. And that is probably more important than she knew that she was doing. She's having a big impact, not only in just community, but also helping to retain her fellow classmates. So that is such a wonderful blessing that is added in from all the work that Blanca has been doing. This particular episode of the Student Access 101 podcast is brought to you by my book, Be the GOAT, Career Readiness Manual for First Generation Students and Young Professionals. This book has been in the hands of many students across the nation. I've been able to gift this book also. This book has been a part of the Ellington Foundation giveaway. So last year, I was able to raise enough funds and I donated 30 of these books to Kent State University Student Support Services Program, which is a part of the TRIO programs. I truly believe that students who are first generation, they need as many skills as possible so that they can be able to compete with those individuals who are non-first gen students. One of the things that made it really critical for me, and one of the reasons why I wrote this book, is because I remember what it was like for me going into the corporate space and not feeling as though I was prepared, not feeling ready. So if you are interested in this book, if you know students who can benefit from the Be the GOAT Career Readiness Manual for first generation students and young professionals, please direct them to Amazon. Go on to Amazon. If you type in my name, Dr. Tameka Ellington, if you type in Be the GOAT Career Readiness Manual, you'll be able to find it right there on Amazon. And you can gift this to a student in need. This is a wonderful gift for students who are about to graduate from high school or graduate from college. It'll give them some skills that they can use to be able to better prepare them so that they can compete with all other students in their given field. And so I would like to just say thank you all for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like it, comment on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, share it with those individuals in your circle who you believe will benefit. And thank you to all of those who have been avid listeners since I started Student Access 101 earlier this year. I've hosted 19. This is the 19th show. I've hosted 19 amazing episodes. I am so proud of that and so proud of myself. And I've loved every minute of getting to know various people that are working with students. It's been a complete honor of mine, but I would love for you to stay tuned for what I have coming up next in the new year. I have a new show entitled Dr. Tameka Ellington, the Black Beauty Advocates podcast. This show is going to focus on highlighting topics that are relevant to the societal development of Black women's thoughts on their level of beauty and confidence. That's something that's been very important for me for many, many years. As many of you probably know, my background is in fashion. And so looking at and studying this whole idea of self-esteem, confidence, and beauty for Black people has been something that I've been doing for many, many years. And it's a true passion of mine. So I'm in the process of repositioning myself in the speaking industry. All of my platforms are now going to be focused on working to develop this whole idea about what it looks like for Black women to be able to be in a position where they can increase their level of confidence in relationship to how they feel about their level of beauty. And so together, even though I'm switching around, my love for students is still very prevalent. I still have my foundation, and I still truly believe that it's important for us all to work towards changing the trajectory of equitable education for students who are underrepresented. And always remember, let's empower and educate, because there's no success without student access. Peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you for those of you who have been rocking with me throughout this entire process. This is the last show for Student Access 101. Have a wonderful evening.